In a storm-swept tent, thick with incense and dread, a young woman's hand trembles beneath silk sheets. The most powerful man in history lies beside her, his breath heavy with conquest satisfaction. She is a Tangut princess, one of thousands, enduring 3 years of horror. But tonight, she is no victim. Her fingers grip a hidden blade. The storm masks her shallow breaths. For 3 years, her family's ashes fueled her resolve. The blade catches candlelight as she raises it. In seconds, the conqueror who claimed 7,000 women will learn empires built on terror can bleed. This is the story of Genghis Khan, whose personal trauma birthed history's most systematic campaign of sexual violence, reshaping continents. And it's the story of the woman who ended it with one defiant strike. How did one man's wound become a legacy of horror? Why did a single kidnapping ignite a system leaving 16 million genetic descendants? To understand, we rewind 25 years to a betrayal that changed the world. Before we dive into this epic tale, I need your help to spread it. Like, share, and subscribe to keep these forgotten voices alive. Every click fuels our mission to uncover history's truths. Be the spark that inspires others. Join us. In 1184, the Mongolian steppes were a brutal arena of tribal politics. Temujin, not yet Genghis Khan, was a young warrior. At 17, he married Borte to cement alliances. But the Merkits, nursing a grudge over a woman stolen by Temujin's father, struck at dawn. 30 riders stormed his camp, and Temujin fled, leaving Borte behind. For 8 months, she endured captivity under Chilger, a Merkit warrior who claimed her as spoils. Historical records sanitize the truth. Borte suffered relentless assault in a culture where a woman's honor defined her worth. When Temujin and his ally Jamukha rescued her, she was pregnant. The child, Joki, bore the name Guest, a cruel hint at his uncertain paternity. Temujin claimed the boy, but doubt gnawed at him. Each glance at Joki reminded him of those 8 months, a wound that transformed him. In Mongol culture, a taken woman carried permanent shame, marking Temujin as a man who failed to protect his own. This shame forged him into something darker. He would never flee again. The world would pay for his humiliation. The Merkits faced his wrath first. Temujin annihilated their tribe. Men, women, children. But death wasn't enough. He wanted them to suffer as Borte had, to bear his shame. This became his template, sexual violence as calculated revenge. Every conquered tribe would pay for the Merkits' crime. Every woman taken balancing Borte's captivity. His trauma became state policy. The man who couldn't protect one woman would possess thousands, controlling entire civilizations' futures. His generals saw the shift. Temujin abandoned mercy. Women became spoils. Conquest meant possession, literal ownership of bloodlines. Psychologists recognize this. Trauma turned into power, victimization into domination. But few traumas scaled so catastrophically. Temujin's wound infected an empire, making him history's greatest rapist in his quest to erase one woman's violation. Let's honor the resilience of those who endured. Like, share, and subscribe to amplify their voices. Your support keeps history's lessons alive. Be part of this journey. Genghis Khan turned pain into strategy. His empire thrived on meticulous systems, sexual violence as organized as his cavalry. After conquests, officials held selections in public squares. Women were stripped, scored on a 100-point scale: beauty, age, virginity, noble birth. A virgin princess might score 95, a widow 60. Officials circled naked women, stylists scratching scores onto tablets. High scorers went to the Khan or generals. Those below 60 entered military brothels, servicing thousands until their bodies collapsed. These mobile units trailed armies, their inventory tracked like livestock. The Khan's collection of 7,000 women, organized by ethnicity, Chinese, Persian, Russian, mapped his conquests. Managing them required schedules, medical checks, and guards. Women bearing sons gained status, a twisted incentive. The system consumed 15% of imperial revenues, rivaling cavalry costs. This was industrialized rape, a sexual economy where women were currency, their suffering logged. The Mongol postal system, the Yam, doubled as a slavery network. Stations offering horses and food also had comfort houses. Women were rotated to prevent escape networks, their details recorded with precision. Station masters faced quotas, balancing deaths and services. Girls as young as 7 appeared in manifests, their youth a grotesque advantage. Ledgers in Chinese archives list 20 Tangut maidens, scores 45 to 55, assigned to Regiment 4. Inspectors audited stations for efficiency, villages forced to supply girls or face annihilation. Parents faced impossible choices, sacrifice daughters or lose everything. In 1202, the Tatar Confederation's defeat set a precedent. Their crime, poisoning Temujin's father, demanded more than victory. Genghis ordered every male taller than a wagon axle executed, sparing boys who could forget their origins. Women were distributed among troops, elite warriors taking younger ones, soldiers older ones. The mass rape was deliberate, organized to maximize trauma. Women watched their husbands' executions before being given to their killers. Daughters were separated, sisters torn apart, isolation amplifying pain. The goal was genetic conquest. Tatar women bore Mongol children, erasing their lineage. Pregnant women were monitored, their children raised as Mongols. Resistance met public rape and execution to break collective will. Many women chose suicide, but Mongols bound hands and posted guards, denying even death. The campaign was a prototype, refined with each conquest. They perfected ratios of women to soldiers, suicide prevention, and distribution, turning sexual violence into science. One general boasted of 40 Tatar virgins, recorded without shame. Soldiers taunted women about murdered families, forcing them to praise Genghis. Within a generation, Tatar identity vanished, DNA showing Mongol Y chromosomes replacing local lineages. The courage to face these truths changes us. Like, share, and subscribe to keep history's lessons alive. Your support empowers these stories. Join the movement. In 1223, the Oyo Confederation's resistance provoked a horrific demonstration. After their defeat, Genghis ordered 4,000 girls, aged 7 to 15, gathered in Kylix Square. Soldiers dragged children from mothers over 3 days. In a public spectacle, Genghis declared Oyo defiance warranted special punishment. Parents faced a cruel choice: submit, and daughters became sexual slaves, resist, and watch them tortured to death. The mass rape unfolded on platforms for visibility, parents held at sore point. Logistics included holding areas, guard rotations, and medical teams. 2 girls died, their bodies displayed as warnings. Survivors, marked as Oyo rebels' daughters, faced harsh treatment in low military units. The youngest grew up in slavery, knowing only violation. The Oyo atrocity paralyzed resistance. Cities surrendered faster, fearing the 4,000. Public sexual violence proved more effective than military defeat, a tactic refined but never repeated on such scale. The Mongols innovated further. From Chinese manuals, they learned psychological timing, varying assault intervals to heighten terror. Symbolic mutilations, like sewing orifices, sent warnings. Victims were forced to blaspheme in sacred spaces, breaking faith. Torture manuals, detailed techniques and responses, brutality bureaucratized. Psychological torture was worse. Parents chose which child suffered, trust crushed with false promises. Children were tools. Sons watched mothers' violations, daughters controlled mothers. Mongol doctors healed victims enough for continued use, twisting medicine into suffering. This history is heavy, but sharing it breaks the silence. Like, share, and subscribe to honor survivors and expose truth. Your action inspires, be the change. The Mongols weaponized heredity, knowing traits pass through bloodlines. Their policy of replacing enemy genetics was biological warfare. One soldier could impregnate dozens yearly, multiplied by thousands over decades. Noble bloodlines were targeted to survive through Mongol fathers, called watering foreign fields with Mongol rain. Pregnant women were monitored in camps, womb state property. Children of rape became Mongols, boys for armies, girls for distribution. In Central Asia, pre-Mongol Y chromosomes vanished, DNA showing 8% of men in Mongol territories carry Genghis's marker, up to 30% in some regions. Millions of assaults in genetic code. Half Mongol children faced discrimination but gained privileges, creating incentives for women to seek Mongol partners. These children enforced their father's empire against their mother's peoples. Trauma made hereditary. Princess Gurbel, a 17-year-old Tangut, stood in the selection lines after Yinchuan's fall in 1227. Her brothers' heads were speared. Her mother leapt from a tower. Caught trying to follow, Gurbel scored 98, destined for Genghis. Her defiant eyes were her flaw, but they held her resolve. She traveled weeks to his court, memorizing faces of doomed captives. Each night in his bed fueled her revenge. The aging Khan wheezed, weakened by wounds. Gurbel played submissive, learning Mongolian, guard shifts and search patterns. A Jin concubine passed her a dagger, their eyes speaking silently. She practiced the strike in darkness. During a 1227 thunderstorm, the Khan, drunk on mare's milk, called for her. The storm hid sounds, guards distracted. She wove the blade into her hair, trembling as servants prepared her. In his dim tent, she approached, his eyes closing in confidence. "For the Tangut," she whispered, the blade striking true. Blood spread, his gasp one of shock. 4-3 heartbeats, she watched his terror. Every daughter stolen, every mother broken, they send their regards. She slipped out, running past ethnic tents. Chinese, Persian, Russian women understanding her bloodstained clothes. At a cliff, she spoke. "For Tangut, for all, for my mother," leaping into the river's current. Her body was found days later, but the Khan was dead. His generals crafted lies. Illness, hunting accident, unable to admit a girl killed their god king. Gurbel's body was burned, her name erased, but whispers spread. The princess who slew the monster. The empire continued, but fear now cut both ways. If the Khan could die by a woman's blade, no one was safe. The scars endure. Like, share, and subscribe to keep these stories alive. Your support gives voice to the voiceless. Be their champion. The Mongol terror reshaped cultures. Central Asia adopted purdah, hiding women to avoid repeat horrors. Houses gained hidden rooms. Cities placed women's quarters centrally. Girls married at menstruation for protection. Folktales warned of strangers. Lullabies taught escape. Honor killings and virginity checks emerged. Sexuality a fortress against history's repetition. Language avoided rape. Religious prayers sought divine protection. Saints rose from victims choosing death. Gender segregation grew extreme. Public spaces male only. Dowry soared. Women's inheritance vanished. Financial invisibility a survival tactic. Armies built defenses for women, but protection became imprisonment. Today, 16 million men carry Genghis's Y chromosome, each marker a rape, a broken family. Architecture, customs, and DNA echo the trauma. Gurbel's blade showed even absolute power has weaknesses, that violence breeds its own destruction. The Mongol sexual terror remains history's darkest chapter, one man's wound scarring humanity. The tent is quiet, the storm passed, but thunder lingers. Thank you for joining this journey. Like, share, and subscribe to ensure we never forget. Your support honors the past. Be the voice that echoes.